Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, friends, family, trolls, shills. Thank you very much for being here. I'm your host, Mr. X, and you're on the Night Watch. Say a quick hello to my co-host, Jules. Hi, Jules.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Oh, great.
And Christina.
Hey, Mr. X.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
That's good.
Congratulations on your first episode. Sorry that got off to a little bit of a rocky start, but
It did. I apologize for that. Just learning the ropes here. It is my first episode. Thank you very much. It's about time we got it off the ground. Been talking about it for what, 2 months now?
at least maybe like six.
Right. And excuse me, everybody, if I seem a little choppy. It is my first one, so bear with me. Well, friends, what I'm here to do is basically I want to take you on a journey, an opportunity to open your minds a little bit, a journey to places that are a little bit less talked about, and a journey beyond even that, maybe into time and space. But most of all, I'm here to take you a journey into the mysteries of our own soul and what is really going on. And we're going to touch on anything that has to do with the celestial universe and all its aspects, consciousness and meditation, energies, extraterrestrials, abductions, sightings, channeling, mystery schools, anything paranormal, zombies, viruses, geological events, etc. I think you get the picture. For our first show tonight, I'm going to be taking a look at the Interstellar Fluffy Cloud, or also called the Galactic Superwave. And before we get into that, Christina, I know you had some interesting news about a meteor that was said to be hit somewhere in the United States tonight. You want to touch on that?
Sure. I guess this happened in Alabama about 6 o'clock tonight, and there were a few people that posted about it on my page and emailed me, and pretty soon it was on all the forums. And it looks like this was actually seen all the way from Alabama to possibly Missouri.
Wow.
People that saw it described it as like a transformer explosion with a tail moving through the sky. I guess it was huge, really bright. There are reports of it on the American Meteor Society's page. And the only news that I saw, mainstream news reported, it was Alabama.com. Birmingham, Alabama, residents across the state have reported the sight of a meteor or fireball at about 5:40 this evening. Holly Burton, a meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Birmingham, confirmed that several people have called the station to report similar sightings. She said she's received calls from as far north as Winston and as far south as Clanton. Local radar, however, did not pick up anything significant. Of course, a week or so ago we had that strange event that turned out to be a munitions dump explosion in Louisiana, which I don't know if that's ever been really fully explained, since many people reported seeing a meteor that night, not only in East Texas, but in 3 other states.
Right. And we've been
Um,
talking to a lot of people about that, and nobody seems to have a full explanation of it.
no, there is something called the Torrid meteor shower or Halloween fireballs, because they appear each year between mid-October and mid-November, and that's according to space.com. That's what they're calling this. Apparently there was a large boom associated with the meteor that shook people's houses, rattled windows. I haven't heard any reports of any damages like what happened in Louisiana, but still, it's pretty interesting to see another one of these so soon.
Very interesting. And as a matter of fact, you brought up the flash of light. I know I was recording the storm yesterday with the camcorder, and I turned it off later on in the evening because I didn't figure I would get anything obviously at night. But while I was looking out the door wall, there was a bright flash of light that almost could be explained the same way. There was no boom present, however. But I found that pretty interesting after I heard you talk about what happened in Alabama last night. Thank you very much.
Well, I know there were transformer problems all the way from the East Coast to Michigan. It could have been that, but there aren't any storms going on down south tonight. So it doesn't sound like a transformer, but people were saying it's as bright as the explosion that they saw on the video from New York last night. I don't know if you saw that Con Ed explosion that happened like right in downtown New York.
I did
Huge
not.
bright orange flash, then a blue flash, That's what people were saying, but it was moving through the sky. So, I mean, it could be some kind of space debris too. Who knows? You know, we'll probably see more. GLP has been all over this, like they always are. They were actually the first to report a lot of the stuff going on with Sandy last night. In fact, when Oyster Creek was shut down, I saw it on GLP before I saw it on any news or anywhere else.
Yeah,
So they're on
very
top
good.
of their stuff as usual.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, we love GLP. um, well, as far as the interstellar cloud is concerned, I'm going to first read you an excerpt from NASA. This was put out on June 4th of 2010. And NASA did admit that there was something very interesting going on with the universe. So once again, here's the, and I'm going to see if I can drop this link into chat. I'm just going to read an excerpt from it, and then you guys can check it out a little bit later. There you go. June 4th, 2010, Earth and space are about to come into contact in a way that's new to human history. To make preparations, authorities in Washington, D.C. are holding a meeting, the Space Weather Enterprise Forum at the National Press Club on June the 8th. Richard Fisher, head of NASA's Heliophysics Division, explains what it's all about. Quote, "The sun is waking up from a deep slumber, and in the next few years we expect to see much higher levels of solar activity. At the same time, our technological society has developed an unprecedented sensitivity to solar storms. The intersection of these two issues is what we're getting together to discuss," unquote. The National Academy of Sciences framed the problem 2 years ago in a landmark report entitled Severe Space Weather Events, Societal and Economic Impacts. Quote, it noted how people of the 21st century rely on high-tech systems for the basics of daily life, smart power grids, GPS navigation, air travel, financial services, and emergency radio communications can all be knocked out by intense solar activity. A century-class storm, the Academy warned, could cause 20 times more economic damage than Hurricane Katrina. So I find that pretty interesting, being that NASA now is denying ever saying anything concerning this fluffy cloud. They've been completely silent about it for the last 2 years. I've been doing some pretty in-depth searches on everything on a pretty much daily basis, and nothing from NASA on this. And I know you guys are well familiar with NASA's stance on anything that's considered a quote-unquote conspiracy. But delving into it tonight, I'm going to look at two different schools of thought. And first, but we want to touch on what actually, or where actually, this interstellar cloud or galactic superwave emanated from. What we're looking at is, and once again, NASA's theory on the Big Bang, to me, this just blows it out of the water. But each galaxy in the universe has what they've said is a central black hole, or a supermassive black hole. Each of these black holes has a cycle, basically. Their cycles are different for each black hole, as far as I can tell. There's not a lot to read about that. Obviously, they don't know a whole heck of a lot about it. So what they're saying is, during these cycles, once this black hole, a supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy, reaches its cycle, which ours is 26,000 years, that it emanates a large eruption. And that eruption is what they're calling the interstellar cloud or galactic superwave. Our particular galaxy center, our particular supermassive black hole, is about the size of 3.7 million suns. And as I stated earlier, the cycle is 26,000 years. What we're seeing now, and what some propose that we're already in, is the energy from that actual ignition. And if what we're seeing now in the geological events does show that there's definitely something going on. In 1999, the NASA set up the Chandra X-ray Observatory, and that was done specifically to view these energies as they were coming through. What the other issues I want to get into? There's two different schools of thought here, and the first one is from a gentleman named Payne Andov. And Payne basically was a computer scientist. He hails from Macedonia. Once again, he was a computer scientist. He worked for the largest computer technology company in Macedonia. He found at the end that this was not his calling, and he moved into more of an area of consciousness awareness. And both of these authors that I'm speaking of tonight are in the same within the same realm of thinking. He started his own magazine at one point called The Sixth Sense, and his fields now vary widely to include pretty much everything that we're going to discuss on the show, and that's how I came across him. Oh, and another thing to get back to, too, the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy is called Sagittarius A, for those of you who may not know. And I apologize to you people in chat. I am not able to look and see what's going on or have any questions. So if there's anybody, Jules or Christina, if there are any questions as we're going, if you could throw them at me, that'd be great.
For sure.
Thank you very much. Basically, Andov's theory is that we have not yet reached, or this super wave has not reached us yet, but will on the 23rd of December, it'll reach the sun. And his theory is that when it does reach the sun, that it's going to cause our sun to go red giant. And for those of you that don't know what a red giant is, please refer to Wikipedia. I'm going to head there right now and read a quick blurb.
Hey, Daniel.
Yes.
This is Jules, but I wanted to ask you, I've been following that energy ribbon since they first announced it, because I know I was really surprised when that original video came out about IBEX and the detection of that. And they had said that they weren't sure how long it was going to take to come in, but it was super hot and it was coming in pretty fast. And then, you know, all hell broke loose in the world and we kind of forgot about it for a while. So you're saying that they actually put a date on it for December 23rd? I mean, because it's a super high energy ribbon and nobody knows what it's going to do when it gets here. So,
well, the theory behind his dating is that they put the Chandra Observatory up into space to observe just that, and they were actually able to measure the distance and time and speed it was traveling.
Wow. And so who is this guy that's saying now that it's going to make us go...
This is Payne Andov.
And he's a NASA scientist?
He's not a NASA scientist. No, he's a computer scientist who was more on the worked more on the technical aspects in the computer production industry in Macedonia.
Oh.
And he then decided that was not his field. He, like many of us, learned way too much and had to move on to something that challenged him, which was going against NASA, going against the grain, and developing his own theories on the universe, is what I'm understanding.
Well, I'd be really interested in that because that's pretty scary.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into it here in just a minute, actually. First, as far as the red giant goes, here on Wiki, you can read up on that. The red giant is a luminous giant star of lower intermediate mass, roughly 0.5 to 10 solar masses of our own sun, in a late phase of stellar evolution. The outer atmosphere is inflated and tenuous, making the radius immense and the surface temperature low, somewhere from 5,000 Kelvin and lower. The appearance of the red giant is from yellow-orange to red, including the spectral types K and M, but also S stars and most carbon stars. It goes on to talk about it quite a little bit more, but we're not going to get into that. Mr. Andov's theory is once again that this cloud or galactic superwave is going to hit the sun on December 23rd of this year, 2012. And when that does happen, it's going to cause the sun to expand, swallowing both Mercury and Venus, and coming close enough to Earth to cause temperatures of 2,000 degrees plus centigrade. And his theory goes on to state that this is the reason for all the bunkers that they've built and all the new presidential executive orders that have been put into place, that the coming chaos to our society is being caused by this cloud. And I'm going to read you a little bit from his site. Here we go. And I'll drop this into chat really quick as well so you guys can check this out. There is the site. Chandra, and he's talking about the observatory, also recorded stars increasing in size by the extreme influence of this energetic wave and going through the major changes, swelling in size and then ejecting the outer layer and becoming much smaller. Of course, if you contact NASA, they will deny any of this, which we're all well aware of. Exactly the same as their approach about the UFO ET question. The forecast is that the same will happen with our sun. As soon as this extremely powerful energetic pulse makes a contact, and it will not be in 5 billion years from now, but exactly on December 23rd, 2012, a complex nuclear reaction will be set in motion that will cause our sun to increase in size, swallowing the planets Mercury and Venus. That means that it will come extremely close to Earth, causing impossible conditions for biological life, with daily temperatures ranging far above 2,000 degrees centigrade. This is the only reason why the top secret underground world has been built in the first place, so the elite can be safe as the other people that are members of their club, Usually this is the point where most of you will raise the red flag, thinking, no way, this can be accurate. But I encourage you to continue reading while I will take you through some facts that I can assure you will not be easy to disregard. So a pretty interesting blurb, and that's some pretty big doom he's got going on there. Your thoughts on that, Christina, if any?
Well, there's been some very unexplainable things that have happened in the last few years, actually. The big one, and I talk about this on my show a lot, is the fact that the sun's activity has actually changed decay rates of radioactive materials on Earth, which is unheard of. And I have a friend that's a physicist who, when I told him that, he didn't believe me. And I'm like, Stanford reported this, Purdue reported this 2 years ago, that they were noticing it in not only their labs, but they're noticing it out in areas where we've had radiological accidents like Chernobyl.
I will verify that, Christina.
They've expected things like cesium to decay in a certain time. They haven't. The only explanation they can come up with is that something has changed our sun. And I mean, I don't know enough about like how all these, the electric universe, and I hope you cover that on a future show, the whole theory of like the electric universe and how all these things can affect our climate and planet and the materials inside our planet. But if that's what's happening, that would also explain some of the static discharges that we've seen. There was a video of a weather person standing in front of like a live cam of a highway. I think this was in Arizona a few months ago, and this transformer it looked like a transformer blew up behind her on the screen. This went viral all over YouTube. And there was no transformer there. They've never explained what this huge static discharge was. And, there's all kinds of like flashes in the sky videos and people reporting flashes from the UK and the East Coast, all across the Mid-Atlantic ridge on nights when we've had big earthquakes. And, these lights can be discharged from the ground prior to earthquake activity. The sun be setting some of the stuff off. How does this all tie in together? Definitely something very strange is going on. That the ribbon is real. NASA did talk about the ribbon 20 years ago when they first found it. They talked about it like crazy, and then all of a sudden they just shut it down. We know that like our heliosphere has lost its bow shock. The bow shock is kind of like this big bubble that surrounds our planet and the solar system that kept out a lot of these weird energies from the rest of the galaxy. And now we don't have that anymore. So what are we getting that's incoming that's different from before?
Right.
I mean, we have epic storms now that are happening every couple months, 100-year storms. Like Sandy, last year it was Irene at the exact same time. This is only supposed to happen once in a great while, and it's happening now all the time.
And everything they're saying that's never supposed to happen is happening on a regular basis now, and they're having to change all the models on specific sites that we use for data constantly.
Right, and that's one of the big reasons, too, why they need to shut down all the nuke plants. And I promised people I wouldn't talk about the nuke stuff on this show because I know a lot of people need a break from that if they follow my page and they found their way over here tonight. The last couple of nights have been pretty rough for us, and you need to get a break from it once in a while. But this is a really big reason. If you didn't see Kevin Blanch's video that he put out today about this, you must watch it. I'll put a link in chat.
Thank you. And you know, I've had actually my own personal experience, and as have a lot of other people that I've spoke to. I do spend a lot of time on GLP. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's Godlike Productions. It's a what you would call a quote unquote conspiracy forum. I think it's a wonderful outlet for news and differing opinions from people around the world. And I know we got a couple of GLPers on here tonight. Hi guys, thank you for joining. What's up? Basically, what had happened to me was over the summer, and I do have rather sensitive skin, but I usually burn right at the beginning of summer, and then I get really dark, and I only burn once. Then I get really nice and deep tanned and don't have an issue, and I've never had skin cancer in my entire life, but I had a tattoo work done over the summer. And I know I shouldn't have been, but I went out into the sun for about an hour. I think it was 2 or 3 days after I had the tattoo done, and it was a beautiful day. I went to the pool. Just a couple days following that, I started getting some bumps on the tattoo. I thought maybe I was having an allergic reaction. Still not positive where it came from, but here we are a couple months later. As it turns out, it was a form of malignant skin cancer. And it grew very fast, and so I'm in the right now in the middle of investigating why I got it. If the sun had anything to do with it, I've had some blood work done. I've had everything removed. It's not anything that's going to harm my life, but it was rather interesting to have happen, considering. And as well, that we've seen in our area trees that were burned very oddly in the middle of summer where everything was green, but one side of the trees the leaves were all burned from the outside in. The leaves weren't dead. They didn't die from the stem forward. They were burned from the outside of the leaf in towards the stem, and they were all on one north-facing side of these trees over by the college where I live at. And that definitely brought a few things to mind, especially after the skin cancer scare. And I started talking to a few people on GLP, and there are definitely some reports of other people who have never had issues before that were also burned back in September. So we're wondering at this point if there was some sort of event that happened back then. And we know there was a pretty big solar flare, Christine. I think if you might recall better than I, being that you jump on that quite a bit. We did have a massive flare that wasn't supposedly not Earth directed back in early September.
Yeah. And we had all those cosmic bursts, too.
Right, yeah, the ones that were showing up and then getting deleted from the site periodically.
Yeah, it's really weird. The trees around here that were fried on one side like that all faced west. I don't know if anyone's noticed that. It wasn't all the trees, but some of them, like in certain groves where they had them lining the streets, they're just completely fried. And if you stop and look at the leaves, they're all burned all along the edges.
Very, very strange to see indeed. So I'm still doing actually further investigation on that, waiting on some blood tests to come back to see if we can't pinpoint it, but probably not. It will remain a mystery. The next person I want to get about, is Susan Joy Renison. And Mrs. Renison has a bachelor's of science in physics and geophysics. She is also an author, a radio personality, and a blogger, and self-proclaimed non-New Ager. And I'm going to take you over and read a quote from her on what she is calling the Interstellar Etheric Cloud Index. The Interstellar Etheric Cloud Index has been created for those seeking information that explains the scientific and metaphysical references to the arrival of an interstellar cloud that will drive evolutionary change for all life on Earth and all other planets in our solar system. The interstellar cloud has been given a variety of names by the scientific community, such as the local fluff, which I've heard numerous times on GLP, and the G cloud. Not sure what that's in reference to, but one can only wonder. If it has the same effect, who knows? but in the metaphysical community have referred to this as an etheric cloud. I'm sorry, that was me interjecting there, not Mrs. Renison. The metaphysical community have referred to this as an etheric cloud, and more recently, it has been acknowledged as the arrival of primordial adamantine particles. It is widely accepted by those who understand the implications that it is the arrival of this interstellar molecular cloud that has been affecting the sun in the last few decades as the sun passed through into the outermost tenuous regions of this cloud, populated with more dense filaments of plasma. It is fair to say that astronomers are not able to judge accurately astronomical distances in space or distinguish the arrival of a moderately dense but still not inconsequential cloudlet. Hence, over the last 30 years or so, the estimated time of arrival of a dense interstellar cloud has been stated to be up to 50,000 years. Therefore, there has been confusion because it seems that a cloudlet has arrived, and some astronomers believe we entered the tenuous outer edges of the moderately dense cloud in the early 1990s. The arrival of an interstellar cloud of dense dusty plasma, or an etheric cloud, is understood to be the most significant driver of mass evolutionary change within our solar system. The following quote from a metaphysical source indicates that the astronomical community had been aware for many decades that our solar system was being approached by an interstellar molecular cloud, but from a metaphysical viewpoint, humanity must expect there to be significant consequences for the spiritual evolution of mankind. Basically, people, she's talking about the evolution of your DNA from a carbon-based life form to a crystalline being. Quote, there will be rumors of it from the scientific levels, just a little bit said here and there in scientific reports to condition people for some strange events. And if we look, we will find these references in newspapers and magazines. Some from different esoteric groups will receive this information in one way or the other, or another, through their leaders or through their contact with it. Very shortly, there will be scientific murmurings and mutterings about this phenomenon because the vast etheric cloud will very definitely affect the astral material level, material substance of the planet and the physical bodies as well as the etheric bodies. Unquote. February 24th, 1961, Night Class of Viola Pettit-Neal, Through the Curtain, 1983, by Viola Pettit-Neal, Ph.D. I found that also very interesting and had my own thoughts on our changing DNA and what's been going on. And I know we've had these discussions, Jules, on numerous occasions with what's happening in that regard.
Yeah, definitely.
As there are many, many threads on GLP discussing the same thing. YouTubers as well. There may be some YouTubers here tonight. And so what we'd like to do going forward is answer, I'm going to jump over to chat now that I've given you kind of an overview of both theories. I want to jump over to chat and take some questions, as well as we're going to post a call-in number. And if anybody would like to call in with questions, that would be great as well. Alyssa, how do rods of God fit in? That's actually, I hadn't planned on talking about that with this show. Rods of God are it's a theory of a space-based weapon. And although it may apply to bright flashes that we've seen, like the meteorite that came down last night, this would cause actually the same effect. But it's believed to be a space-based weapon that delivers a tungsten rod to a specific target. It can burrow itself within the ground and explode underneath the ground. Some have theorized that maybe what had happened in Louisiana a week or so ago. Hope I covered that for you, all right? Thank you very much for paying attention.
So one thing I wanted to mention, Christina, you were talking about decay rates changing earlier, and you had said some of the cesium decay rates had changed. I do vaguely remember that, but back quite a number of, I don't know if it was years ago, but within the last few years, I know the carbon-14 decay rate has changed. And they're really concerned about that because that's how they carbon date for historical purposes, and now they're not sure if any of that's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
They also discovered, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it Betelgeuse? It's
Beetlejuice.
the pulsar that they have timed all the astronomical instruments to. So all of the multi-billion-dollar telescopes that are up there and the timings are all timed to this pulsar. And the pulsar has, they've discovered that it's now variable. I haven't looked at any of this stuff for a long time. I've kind of been, you guys know I've been wrapped up in some other things here.
Right.
Like,
I
this, but
actually have, and Beetlejuice is scheduled to. There was an article out by NASA that, and I personally thought it was a cover story, but that's my own personal opinion, that Beetlejuice is supposed to go supernova,
oh yes,
and
and
that
you
is
might
supposed to
see it,
happen.
two
It's supposed to
suns.
look at as a second sun in the sky.
Yeah, that'd be
Personally,
nice.
with all the other stories going around about Nibiru, that's a whole nother show
Yeah.
that we can get into, I'm sure, for hours on end.
Or a series
Um,
of shows.
or a
Yeah.
series of shows. Thank you very much, Christina. You're absolutely right. Super topic that is just wide open for discussion. But NASA had put out a story about Betelgeuse going supernova, which it already would have by this point, and we would just be seeing it in 2013.
That'd be
Other
freaky.
red giants. Yeah, very freaky. There are a few other red giants in our that are can be seen right now, including Aldebaran, Gamma Crucius, which I personally it's the first time I've heard of that one, Antares, and then Betelgeuse, of course.
Hey, Daniel, we have
Yes.
someone calling in. Should I answer?
Awesome. Yeah, bring them
All
on.
right, let's go. I have added them to the conference. You are live.
Hey, who am I
Hi,
speaking with?
Jose. I am from Long Beach, California. I've been studying the changes ever since Fukushima on the Earth and different things like that. And on the chat room, I just posted a video that I found on the Japan tsunami that actually reached Antarctica and knocked a piece of ice that had been there for the last 20, 30 years. And, climate changes due to ice melt. There's also the teeter-totter of seasons. Every time there's a summer, like the hurricane season, the water accumulates in the Gulf, and during our winter, the water accumulates in the Pacific, and I guess the scientists call it the El Niño effect, but what's happening now is that the southern cap is melting at a faster rate. The days are getting faster, and some of that happens naturally during winter, but it's happening at a faster rate, and the water is rising, and some of those you can actually see how we're spinning faster when you look at Orion's belt and Orion in the sky. If you look at Orion at the same time every day, you'll see that we're actually speeding up, and
Right, and we
again,
have seen that with our own eyes.
due to the ice melt in the south and the Earth's oceans are currently stalled with a lot of warm water, which causes a lot of the earthquakes that we're seeing in different areas. And every time,
That would be post-glacial rebound, and Bug, who was just on earlier today, talks about that a lot. And interestingly enough, NASA's cover story is that the North is actually
to the spreading of the Earth, the ocean, the spreading of the ocean floor, and they've been noticing the different buoys going up and down in the ocean.
Right. Yeah, there's buoy alerts. We actually keep track of those on a daily basis, just due to post-glacial rebound. NASA's cover story, they're saying that it's the polar region, the northern polar region, that is melting, and that the southern region is actually gaining ice at this point. But we really, and you've obviously done your
according to the graphs of where we're at in the universe, we're actually getting closer to the sun, and at the same time we're leaning towards the sun, which is somewhat of a natural effect, but our elliptical orbit is getting closer to the sun, and that's melting. That's at the same time that they're having record ice, they're going to have record melt, just like we're having record floods out of record heat.
Right.
So there's the extremes. The extremes are meeting up right now, and I want to give a big shout out to Red Chick and you guys. You guys are doing a great job I hope that you guys keep putting out the word on different science things. You know, science is great if you can understand it, if people can teach it to each other, you know, but I'm guessing that those people that know what's happening and that are part of the contributors to the pollution wouldn't want people to know about science, wouldn't want people to know about the changes of phase from gas to plasma to water to solid to liquid, you know, things like
Right,
that.
yeah.
Are key things that help, I think, the youth, because the youth is being scared into, what you just said about planets aligning and different things like that, when in reality, you know, the sun affects us a lot when it comes to the solar storms and
right.
and
You know,
our
this is
atmosphere
something
when it's
that
locked.
this is something I
You get those
discuss
booms.
with my kids all the time as well, and we all know NASA, also known as Never a Straight Answer, um, is really teaching what they really know, and I believe that goes across the board for most of what's being taught as curriculum in our schools now. That the truth has been hidden from people for so long, and the lies have been permeated into society that we have to take it upon ourselves to reteach our children what's really happening, and that involves researching it ourselves and putting time and effort into learning from each other, and hopefully passing that on and breaking the chain. I appreciate your call. You were great.
Thank you
Please,
so much. God bless you guys.
oh, thank you. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That gentleman definitely did his homework, and I wasn't trying to say he was wrong about the southern pole melting faster. Once again, NASA, that's the story, as well as NOAA, National National Observatory Atmospheric. Christina? I go to the site all the time, but I don't know the acronym. Anyway, NOAA is saying that the South Pole is actually gaining ice, and I think they're just trying to cover up.
Noah's full of
NOAA.
shit. They're the ones who haven't told us what's really in the seals that we're all dead too.
Right.
So
yeah, they don't want to talk about anything. They make.
They're on my list of
some
people to
quite
call
interesting
and
cover
take
stories.
the conversation. For numerous reasons. You can call them too and ask them about that. To that caller, I wanted to mention, it sounds like he has done his homework, but if you haven't, check out Believers Underground's videos on YouTube. He does a great job of explaining what's going on with a lot of the melt and how it's affecting the faults in the ocean floor.
Oh, and I think he's absolutely right. The first time I heard Bug talk about that, I had already started seeing that happening. I mean, as that ice was melting, you got to figure that you're having all this displacement happening of the weight on the planet. You know what I mean? And as the water is kind of moving around to different areas now, those plates are all fluid. I mean, they're all riding. It's got to have some sort of difference. But he was talking about all the tunnels and tubes up in under Canada and up in the northern part of the globe, and all this water is running down underneath there, I guess, and then it's destabilizing even underground and making the plates move. I thought that was pretty neat.
You can see, actually, if you follow the incident maps, that you can see the way the plates are bouncing around back and forth. It's pretty eerie to keep track of, that's for sure. Jax had mentioned something in chat about the red Kachina. Nice job, Jax. Definitely, and if any of you know, and I didn't bring anything up on it tonight, but the Hopi Indian prophecy, speaking of the blue and red Kachinas, and the red Kachina is supposed to be the second sign just before the great change, just before the 3 days of darkness, is how I believe it goes, and that in itself is another show or two. Just an amazing prophecy from the Hopi Indians that I would love to talk about, and I'm sure I will. Gave me goosebumps, actually. I'm resonating big time right now from that. Thanks, Jax. Perfect show. And as a matter of fact, we just had Russell Means just passed away last week. I can't remember the day, but he was a very, very well-known figure in the American Indian Society, and had a lot to say about everything that's going on. Anybody else have a question?
I think Jax should call in.
Yeah, Jax, why don't you call us? He's not answering. Hello, solar maximum. That's an interesting topic as well. Solar maximum. If you do actually the research, you can go back and you can look where NASA actually predicted the solar maximum would be between 2010 and 2011, and that just they after 2010 it became very quiet. In other words, once again, never a straight answer. They really have no idea what in the hell they're looking at. Their guess is as good as ours on certain topics, and this was another one. You know, they use the solar maximum probably as a cover story to say that we're going to have a pickup in activity over 2010, 2011, and then it got actually really quiet. I think what they said was it was one of the quietest years they've ever had for sunspots. We were spotless. And then the solar maximum did not pick up again until this past year, 2012, going into 2013. They're now broadcasting it as something to watch out for. So they keep changing their story on it over and over again. I really do. I have two sons, one in college and one who's a senior in high school, and it really pains me to wonder and to hear what they're being taught and what's being held back from them about what's really going on in the universe. We're definitely working against the grain with our children, but luckily I have two that are willing and open-minded enough to listen.
Well, between me, you, and
start
Jules, we have
questioning for
7. And
Yeah.
I think Jules' 5-year-old is probably the most awake out of all of them. No disrespect to your boys.
Oh,
but
none taken.
that kid is on top of her shit.
Oh, yes. To my
She's-
husband's, he gets a little annoyed sometimes, but
you know, I have 4 daughters. 3 of them are in college. One of them's a senior in high school who just found out today that she got accepted to Western. And you know, it's really not even up to me. Luckily my ex-husband is paying for their college, because if it was up to me, I would say don't waste your time. You're not learning what you really need to know, and it sucks that you need to have a college education. You need to have a diploma to get a job. But you would do better if you took a year off, and I've encouraged all of them to do this and would stand behind them if they wanted to stand up to their father about this too. Take a year off and do their own independent study. One of my kids is like an expert on Illuminati. I don't know anything about the Illuminati, but she knows like every song about it and who all the people are in the music industry and the entertainment industry that put all these things into their songs and their movies. And I've got another one. She's waking up in a different aspect. One's a kind of a little mini Fukushima expert. But instead they're going to college, they're learning all this stuff which isn't really teaching them anything, because it's all been decided for them by the boards, the Board of Education, the boards of these colleges. They tell the teachers, this is what you can talk about and this is what you can't.
I mean, they're teaching them the fabricated story that we just all had shatter, to see the truth. And it makes me sad that, we're really, because of the system, you have to at least understand what the system is, but you have to be able to walk between the two, I think, I mean, you can't be too far the other side and think that if you still wanted to participate in the system, you could. You know what I'm saying? Like, they have to learn as kids, I think, a little bit of structure, how the world really works. So if they have to go there to make a living or whatever, to do what they got to do, they can still function there.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I don't think the way things are going, if we continued on the path we're going, that world isn't going to exist anymore by the time they're out of school. You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't exist. That world doesn't exist for them now.
No, it's crumbling right now. 50% unemployment for college kids.
Yeah.
I think that's, or was it 90%? It was some crazy number this summer.
Yeah.
Thankfully, a lot of them are definitely waking up to different theories. They have the internet now, and forgive me, I forget what they call the generation. There's a letter for it, where we were the X generation, but they're the computer generation, and they have the information at their fingertips. So for the school boards to keep perpetuating the lies is just absolutely ridiculous and doing nothing but making these kids fight back against the system. And I think it's absolutely wonderful that they're really taking it upon themselves and learning so much more about what's really happening.
Well, they see how much fun their parents are having.
Yeah. You know, the
As
thing
they-
is that group, the kids that are in high school today and the kids that are in college. I mean, I'm just so floored at how many 20-somethings right now are awake. And like really awake, because I know I wasn't awake at 20.
Oh,
I was partying. I didn't care,
I
man.
slumbered until I was, I think at 40 is when I really started
Me too.
to come out of my shell and look into other areas. And that's a whole nother show that could be tied right in with this one. When did this really start, and when did the changes in my own life start? I'm not afraid to talk about these changes, people. I'll talk about them all day long, and you can call me as crazy as you like. I know what's happening to me. I know how I'm different. I know I've gained intelligence. I've gained abilities that some would call just utter bullshit. But I can sit here and tell you truthfully, this is my experience, and no, I'm not medicated. Well, not for the most part, I guess. Not in that way. But as far as Susan Joy Renison's approach to it and the changing of our DNA, I got to tell you, I've lived it, and I'm watching it happen, and it's amazing. It really, truly is amazing, and I definitely do plan on doing another show just about that and the changes taking place. I've gone from a person who was just concerned about my job and my children and making it to the next check to a whole nother world of mystery that's presenting itself before me every day. Something new is going on, something new is happening, and these are personal experiences. This isn't something I'm reading out of a book. These are events that are happening in my own life. Whether you choose to believe them or not is whatever resonates with you best is up to you. But for me, it really is quite amazing. And there are definitely a lot of changes taking place, and it's taking place on a mass scale across the planet. There are so many other people that are experiencing the same changes that feel alone and like they have nobody to talk to. And thankfully, we have forums like this and GLP and Above Top Secret and you name it. I mean, there are a ton of places that we can go that we can discuss everything that's been happening to us. It really, truly is. It's hard to express. I get a little choked up because of the experiences that I've had myself and others have shared with me. Mind you, I've had events happen in my own life that were shared with a person right next to me that defy reality. So there's definitely something going on here that nobody really can explain fully until it plays out. And I'm just happy to have the opportunity to talk to you about it.
We have Jules to thank for that.
Yes, thank you so very much, Jules.
Well, I have you guys to thank too. The only reason I did this is because you guys needed a home, so we're all here. See, it's fate. I'm telling you, the last couple years have been whacked out, and your story echoes mine completely. And my life, and I was just talking about this with Drew the other night, Christina, our friend Drew. He's been on Nuked Radio. He has a show here as well, Double Crossed, on Thursday nights at 10. And he and I were just talking about, and he's another Gen Xer, just looking back at the way we used to be in our lives and having that carrot dangling. And I mean, my lifelong goal was to make $1 million. And when you look at that, like, how shallow is that? That's Edward Bernays brainwashing, this whole consumeristic. And really, we were completely absorbed in having to have more and buy more and work more, and it's not about that at all. And I think
MK Ultra at its best.
Yes, big time. And I really think that things starting to fall apart. I mean, there's cracks now in the mirror, and people are starting to wake up because they are starting to question more. And the internet is the beautiful thing, and YouTube especially. I'm telling you, if there was ever an innovation that really allowed us to share in a massive way, it was everybody being able to have their own TV channel. You know what I mean? And say
That's
their
what got me
piece
started.
and share it with everybody. And I think the whole internet, it really kind of started as a military thing, and then it went through the colleges were connected together. I used to use the BitNet back in the 80s, and it kind of then bloomed into the private and then went a little, public, and here we are. But I think for everything that they thought they would be able to maybe surveil or take away from the internet has kind of backfired on them. And now that's why they're trying to call out the Trump card with this whole, Barry's getting ready to sign an executive order to
Another one?
completely throttle back the internet. Yeah, and now the UN, like a week ago, the UN came out and they think that because of the hackers, we're going to need a global standard and get rid of anonymity.
Oh, of course. It was said too, and I could not find the article. I was talking to somebody about it the other day that Windows 8 has a backdoor built in with the internet kill switch right in it.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it at all. I
Yeah, I
wouldn't doubt
found
it at all. They
pretty
sold
interesting.
themselves a long time.
I was talking to, matter of fact, a techie that I know. I'll give him a shameless plug here at Power Computers over in Clemens, Michigan, I believe, or Clinton Township. But I was talking to one of the gentlemen from there, and I brought up the fact that there was the back door, and he just looked at me like I was crazy. What? What are you talking about? I don't know anything, and completely changed the subject. So I found that pretty interesting.
Yeah. But the last thing I wanted to mention, where you said that it just gives everyone away, and there's so many people that feel so alone. I met Christina when I was in that state after Fukushima happened, and nobody was talking about it on any of the news, and nobody thought it was a big deal. I met Christina in a comment thread, I think, on Facebook. But everybody needs somebody to talk to, and you don't realize how important it is for someone who is like, when you start waking up, this is how I envisioned it. I felt like I was in an ocean and didn't have a life preserver. You know what I mean? And you're trying to grab for something because everybody's telling you that what you are seeing and what you are waking up to is not true.
And unfortunately, though, a lot of people eventually will know that we're right. Like what happened with Sandy over the last 24 hours with 5 nuke plants going offline. What looks like those crazy girls on Facebook were right. And since you and I have gotten together, we've reached, 2 million people with the combination of the Fukushima facts, the radio show, YouTube, and all the Facebook pages.
And then the line,
all those,
when you were doing those articles, that one was completely insane. We got it into the mainstream.
Hopefully it's in the back of their mind, and now they see what's happening, and they're like, wow, maybe there really was something to what they were talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Little by little, you reach more and more people.
I wish we would have been headlong into it when I got that the video up that had the 4 million hits in a week. How many people more people could we have reached at that point to wake them up to everything that's going on? And that was just a little UFO vid. So.
And you need to tell that story. We won't have time because it's almost over.
I think his bumper is starting to play.
Woohoo! Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much for being in chat. Thank you, everybody who showed up. Thank you to my hostesses, Christina and Jules. You guys are awesome. You've all been great. Once again, thank you for joining me for the first show, and I hope to see you next week at Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks again.